Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining today in our ongoing discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we'll start with the Mangalacharan prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Udiraye Shanvatam Sukatha Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtanam Hridayantastu Bhadrani Vidanoti Suhutsatam Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavatir Naishtiki Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Paschachade Shetarane Vacharam Pankam Langate Giremya Kripa Tamam Vande Shri Guru Dinataranam So today we will resume our discussion from Canto 2, Chapter 3, Verse 13. Shaunaka Vacha Ityabivartam Raja Nishamya Bharatarshabha Himanyat Prishtavan Bhuyo Vayasikam Rishim Kavim. Shaunak said, the son of Vyasadeva, Srila Sukadeva Goswami, was a highly learned sage and was able to describe things in a poetic manner. What did Maharaj Parikshit again inquire from him after hearing all that he had said? So in the verses leading to this particular verse, we had seen Sukadeva Goswami answering the essential questions being asked by Parikshit Maharaj. So Sukadeva Goswami said, I've answered what you have asked me. The duty of a person, whether he's about to die or whether he has years of life left, is to chant and glorify. And the subject of the chanting and the glorification should be Sri Krishna. So he had led up to this by describing meditation on Krishna as a Virat Roop, meditation of Krishna as Paramatma, and then finally leading to the platform of Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotional service. So at this point, Shaunaka is saying that what did Maharaj Parikshit again inquire from him? So in a way, it would appear that the question answers are complete now, and Shaunaka is inquiring that is this the end of the Bhagavad Katha? But he also has an inclination that there will be more to be said, because he's calling Sukadeva Goswami as Rishim. So the literal translation of Rishim is one who sees the Supreme Brahman. Rishim also means one who is well versed, and Rishim also means one who is a forest dweller. In this context, the meaning that is most appropriate is that one who is able to seek the Supreme Brahman and one who is well versed. He also describes Sukadev Goswami as Kavim. So Kavim means one who is poetic, and um, Paramatma Prabhu, you may want to mute your, there's a lot of static coming from your microphone. Thank you. So Kavim is literally means poetic, also means expert. So he's saying that the son of Vyasadeva, he's a Rishim. So he has Brahma Drishti. He is able to see the Lord and is Kavim. So not only he has that vision, he is also able to describe it. Some people can see and not describe, and some people can describe but not see. But Sukadeva Goswami has both of them. So subtle indication from Shaunaka that there should be, I'm expecting more conversations to happen now. So in the next set of verses, pretty much till the end of the chapter. The chapter is a short chapter. It has only 25 verses. Shaunaka, he will cover two topics. He will first reiterate the glories of hearing Krishna Katha. So this is a continuation. So Sukadeva Goswami ended, or rather Sutta Goswami ended with Sukadeva Goswami's recitation of the glories of Krishna Katha. So he is going to be echoing that yes, the glories of Krishna Katha are infinite, but he will apply it to the context that he is sitting in now. He is sitting in Naimisharanya listening to Krishna Katha. So he is saying, yes, the glories of hearing Krishna Katha are tremendous. So my hope and prayer and expectation is that there will be more. And so that will be in 4 verses from 13 to 16. And then in the rest of the chapter from 17 to 20 to and 24, he will actually speak very harshly, and he will criticize those who are not interested in hearing Krishna Katha. So we see both the glorification of the injunction and the criticism of the prohibition. So one who hears Krishna Katha is glorious. One who does not hear Krishna Katha should be condemned. In a lecture on this verse, Prabhupada says, so with the advancement of our spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness, we should verify whether these qualifications are becoming manifest in my person. So Srila Prabhupada, of course, is talking about the qualifications of Rishim and Kavim. That sometimes people, not sometimes, always, devotees want to know that if they are making progress. And Prabhupada is addressing that if they are able to see, if they are able to see that their connection with Krishna is stronger, and their ability to describe the glories of Krishna have also become stronger, then one can understand that one is making advancement. Prabhupada would often say that preaching is a sign of advancement, and preaching is the cause of advancement. So it's one of those things that when a devotee becomes advanced, he becomes inclined to preach, and by preaching a devotee becomes advanced. And this verse is basically Prabhupada is establishing credence to that statement through this verse. Okay, next verse, 2:3:14. Etaschushrutam vidvan sutano rasi bhashitam kathahari katodrakka Satam Shreyo Sadasi Dhruvam. O learned Sutta Goswami, please continue to explain such topics to us because we are all eager to hear. Besides that, topics which result in the discussion of the Lord Hari should certainly be discussed in the assembly of devotees. So here we see Sukadev Goswami being more explicit. So initially, he was indicating that there was this sense of tentativeness, that Sukadev Goswami had answered the questions of Parikshit Maharaj. Could that have been the end of that conversation? But then, as we noticed, he also qualified it. That Sukadev Goswami is a Rishim and a Kavim and inclined to glorify the Lord. So here he is explicitly saying that continue to explain such topics, because my expectation is that the conversation did not stop at this point. So another important point that he makes over here is that the statement topics that result in the discussion of Lord Hari should certainly be discussed in the assembly of devotees. So he's casting a wider net over here. That and this is definitely true in the context of the Bhagavatam and the Vedas in general, that Krishna Katha is not just the 10th canto, where Krishna is appearing directly and topics are related directly to him, but he's saying topics that result in the discussion. So in the Bhagavatam, we'll see that there are topics that are going to be dealing with Sarga, Visarga, Manvantara, Ishanu Katha, creation, subcreation, the stories of the Manus, the stories of the king, the Nirod, destruction. So why are these topics there in the Bhagavatam, even though they are not directly leading to Krishna? They are not directly relating to Krishna. And here, Shaunak Rishi is explaining that these topics are as potent. And in fact, one may argue that they are even more potent than Krishna Katha, because when one understands the greatness of the activities of the devotees of Krishna, one will automatically begin to appreciate the greatness of Krishna. If one directly comes to the point of Krishna, then without understanding how great Krishna is, one will not be able to appreciate the topics. One might think that these are fabrics of imagination, they are exaggeration, or one may speculate on them. But when one sees that how Brahma creates the universe, when one sees the activities of the Purushavatars, the activities of the Prajapatis, and then one understands that they're all empowered directly or indirectly by Krishna, then one can understand that how great Krishna is. So so Shaunak Rishi is talking about the potency of, he uses two terms, Katha and Hari Katha, Udar Kaha. So Katha is Krishna Katha, and Hari Katha, Udar Kaha is that which leads to Hari Katha. And he's putting them both on the same scale. Especially he says Satam Sadashi. Especially he says that when it is in the association of devotees. So Srila Prabhupada he says that this indirect glorifications of Krishna, which is the pastimes of devotees or devotees of Krishna, that are given in Puranas and Itihas, they're glorious only if they are linked to Krishna. Otherwise, he says there are professional reciters that will try and to capitalize on them in isolation, and they will present them superficially without talking about the underlying tattva. Another problem is that these pastimes externally may appear to be mundane or impractical or bewildering. So this is why they need to be discussed in Satam Sadasi, that in the association of learned and like-minded people who can discuss, who can explain and reveal the tattvas. So in the purport, Prabhupada says some less intelligent men say that Bhagavad Gita is not meant for householders. But such foolish men forget that Bhagavad Gita was explained to Arjun, a grahastha, family man, and spoken by the Lord in his role as a grahastha. So Bhagavad Gita, although containing the high philosophy of the Vedic wisdom, is for the beginners in the transcendental science. And Srimad Bhagavatam is for graduates and postgraduates in the transcendental science. Therefore, literatures like Mahabharata, the Puranas, and similar other literatures which are full of pastime with the Lord are all transcendental literature. And they should be discussed with full confidence in the society of great devotees. So why is it important to discuss it in the association of devotees? Because when we hear about Krishna from non-devotees or in the association of non-devotees, then inevitably it will plant false or mundane concepts about Krishna in the heart. So one will begin to evaluate Krishna from the perspective that is not anchored in the Vedas. So Krishna says many times that I am to be known by my devotees, and this is why he makes this point that the inexplicable, bewildering pastimes of Krishna can only be explained through the realizations of a devotee. And Shaunaka Rishi, so he knows that here both the king and the speaker, they are both exalted devotees, Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami. So he is also using this verse to make the point that because this conversation is between two exalted devotees, it has to be Krishna Katha and it has to be potent. So with full confidence in Sutta Goswami's qualification to repeat what he has heard, Shaunaka Rishi is expressing his eagerness to hear further. So he is not particularly interested in hearing Sutta Goswami's realizations. And this is not in any way an offense to Sutta Goswami. But his focus is that in the association of devotees, which includes Sutta Goswami, which includes the 88,000 sages at Naimisharanya, he wants to hear the dialogue between Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. In a lecture in 1973 in Bombay, the Srila Prabhupada makes a particular note about the potency of discussing Krishna Katha among devotees. So he says, Krishna's place, Golok Vrindavan, that is spread everywhere. How does that Golok Vrindavan become spread? As soon as there is devotee, yes. Tatra Tishtami Narad Yatra Gayanti Madbhakta. Krishna says, Nam Tishtami Vaikuntha Nacha Yogi Nam Prideshu. I do not stay in Vaikuntha Lok or within the hearts of the yogis. Tatra tisthami narada yatra gayanti madbhakta. I stay where my devotees are chanting about me, about my glories. That is the process immediately. So this verse is actually a conversation between Narad Muni and Lord Vishnu, which happens at the advent of Kali Yuga. So Narad Muni goes to Lord Vishnu and he says that, can you give the simplest sadhana that will help the ordinary people realize the Lord because of the shortcomings. So to dispel the doubts and the anxiety of Narad, Lord Vishnu, he himself states that in Kali Yuga, he does not reside in Vaikuntha. So what it means is that he is not accessible to those who are aspiring to enter Vaikuntha through the process of Gyan or Dhyan. And then he says, I do not reside in the heart of the great yogis. So those are performing Astanga Yoga. He said, but I am there wherever my devotees sing my name. So essentially, he's talking about the advent of the Harinam Sankirtan. That in a different age, the yogis would have access, or in a different age, the Gyanis would have access. But he says in the Kali Yuga, he says, Nam Tisthami Vaikuntha, Yogi Nam Hridaye Shubha, Tatra Tisthami Narad, Yatra Gayanti Madhva. Okay, we'll do the next verse, 2-3-15. Savai Bhagavato Raja Pandavayo Marata Balakridankaha Kridan Krishna Kridam Yadade. Maharaj Parikshit, the grandson of the Pandavas, was from his very childhood a great devotee of the Lord. Even while playing with dolls, he used to worship Lord Krishna by imitating the worship of the family deity. So, so far, Shaunaka Rishi was mostly glorifying the speaker, Sukadeva Goswami. He called him Muni, he called him Kavim, Rishim. He called him one who is absorbed in the pastimes of Krishna. Now he's glorifying the audience, the one who is asking the questions. So he's saying that so he's saying that as a in order to give an example of the devotion of Maharaj Parikshit, that when he was a child, when typical children play with dolls, Maharaj Parikshit would play with deities of Krishna. So in this context, Jiva Goswami in Krishna Sandarbha, he says that Shaunaka Rishi is explaining that as a child, Maharaj Parikshit would hear descriptions of Lord Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes. So that's why he says Balakrada. So Balakrada over here means both. So Balakrada is the childhood pastimes of Maharaj Parikshit. They also point to the childhood pastimes of Krishna. Now, there is a certain overlap between Maharaj Parikshit and Krishna, because Maharaj Parikshit, he was born when the battle of Mahabharata ended. And then after that, we know that the Pandavas and Krishna, they stayed on the planet for about 36 years. So that was a time when there was an overlap. So even though it is not explicitly maintained, the understanding is that Parikshit Maharaj had some kind of personal association of Krishna. But the topics that are really inspiring him here is Balakrita, is those 11 years 11 years, 9 months, 12 years that he spends that he spent in Vrindavan, and he would emulate that through his own dolls and playthings. So that is the opinion of Jiva Goswami. He says Balakrita refers to the childhood pastimes of Krishna, and Premavesh. Premavesh refers to the mood of Maharaj Parikshit. Premavesh means that he became absorbed in love. Prema, Avesh. Avesh means completely saturated with prema. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about the commentary by Sridhar Swami on this verse. And he says, according to Sridhar Swami, Maharaj Parikshit used to imitate the worship of the family deity by elderly members. Slightly different. That the Balakrita refers to the childhood pastimes of Maharaj Parikshit, and what he was imitating was not necessarily the childhood pastimes of Krishna, but in his own childhood pastimes, he was imitating the deity worship of Krishna by his family. So, in Vaishnav, especially in traditional Vaishnav houses, children were given their own dolls as deities, and they would see the father offering food, and they would offer something to their, and they would say that, see the father offering arti, and they would try and emulate it. So it was just one of those things that opens the heart and trains them in this process of deity worship. Vishwanath, Prabhupada's purport continues, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur confirms the view of Jiva Goswami that Parikshit Maharaj heard and became attracted. So, hearing either of them, Maharaj Parikshit was naturally inclined to Lord Krishna from his very childhood. So, Jiva Goswami says that Parikshit Maharaj heard about the Balakrita of Krishna, and he became Premavesh. He became attracted. Sridhar Swami says that Parikshit Maharaj, he saw the elders of the family worshipping the deity, and as his own Balakrita, he would Premavesh, he would with love emulate that. So Prabhupada says, accepting either of them, Maharaj Parikshit was naturally inclined to Lord Krishna from his very childhood. He might have imitated either of the above mentioned activities, and all of them establish his great devotion from his very childhood, a symptom of Mahabhagavad. Such Mahabhagavad are called Nitya Siddhas, or souls liberated from birth. But there are also others who may not be liberated from birth, but who develop a tendency for devotional service by association, and they are known as sadhana siddhas. There is no difference between the two in the ultimate issue, and so the conclusion is that everyone can become a sadhana siddha, a devotee of the Lord, simply by the association with the pure devotees. The concrete example is our great spiritual master, Sri Narad Muni. In his previous life, he was simply a boy of a maidservant. But through the association with great devotees, he became a devotee of the Lord of his own standard, unique in the history of devotional service. And we see this interplay also between the speaker and the audience. So, Srila Prabhupada is making the point that Parikshit Maharaj, he was a Nitya Siddha. Right from the beginning, he was attracted to Krishna. Sukadeva Goswami is a sadhana siddha. He was not attracted to Krishna from the beginning. He was an impersonalist. He himself says, I was a monist, established in the impersonal Brahman. Now he really did not do any sadhana that we know of. But what was the redeeming quality? That he got the mercy of devotees. Specifically in this case, he got the mercy of his father, Srila Vyasadeva, and he got the mercy of the other devotees who would recite the Bhagavatam for his pleasure. So, Srila Prabhupada say in the end, there is no difference. Whether one's a Nitya Sadhana, Nitya Sadhak or a Sadhana Sadhak, there's no difference because they reach the same conclusion. So, Prabhupada in the purport, he also writes the significance of Krishna Samskars. That why is it important to get favorable impressions of Krishna right from the very beginning. And that's why things like Garbhoda Samskar, the various samskars that we do, Jati Samskar and Anna Samskar. So sometimes people say samskar, are we karm kandis? We are not. All these samskars, they are, Garbhoda Samskar is what? Chant Hare Krishna, Maha Mantra. And Anna Samskar is what? That we give the child Krishna Prasad, and then we get the child to, the option the child gets is either you read the Bhagavatam, or you become a preacher, or you earn money and serve the temple. Prabhupada writes a little bit about his own life. He says, our father encouraged us in all respects to observe all functions, such as the Rath Yatra and the Dol Yatra ceremonies, and he used to spend money liberally for distributing prasad to us children and our friends. Our spiritual master, who also took his birth in a Vaishnava family, got all inspiration from his great Vaishnava father, Thakur Bhaktivinoda. That is the way of all lucky Vaishnava families. So in a lecture on this verse, Srila Prabhupada says that Bala Kridanka Kridan Krishna Kridamta Ya Abade. This is the facility of taking birth in a Vaishnava family. Children, simply by playing with Krishna, they become Krishna conscious. Some way or other, if someone comes in contact with Krishna, then his life becomes successful. And then I personally see that in second generation devotees, that maybe they are not very strong in the sadhana. Some are, but a lot are not. Maybe they don't chant all the round, but because they have grown in a family, in an environment that is saturated with Krishna consciousness, the impressions in their heart is very, very deep. They have a much more natural faith, natural inclination, natural tendency to take shelter of Krishna. And a lot of them, they are what we call devotees in waiting. That they have everything that is in place. The whole machinery is in place. And someday, some circumstance, somebody will come and push the button, and then the machinery starts running. That's because of these samskars. Right from the birth, their impressions are, samskars means impressions in the mind. The samskars are all Krishna samskars. Okay, next verse, 2-3-16. Vayasakischa Bhagavan Vasudeva Parayanaha Purugaya Gunodaraha Satam Shorhi Samangame. Sukadeva Goswami said, the son of Vyasadeva was also full in transcendental knowledge and was a great devotee of Lord Krishna, son of Vasudeva. So there must have been discussion of Lord Krishna, who is glorified by great philosophers and in the company of great devotees. So this is a summary verse, summary of what has been said in a few verses by Sukadeva Goswami. He had glorified summary by Shaunaka Rishi. He had glorified Sukadeva Goswami. He had glorified Parishad Maharaj. He had said that when the two come together, I expect Krishna Katha to happen. So he is now putting it all together. And in addition to that, some of the greatest personalities had assembled at what was the name of the place? No, Shukratal, right? That's where Sukdev Goswami spoke to Parishad Maharaj. So he's saying that these is that Achyuta?
Yes, Prabhu.
Oh, nice to hear your voice. So he's making this point that Sukdev Goswami was speaking, Parishad Maharaj was speaking, and then great personalities like Narad Muni, Srila Vyasadev, and Parshuram, and so many great personalities were there. So one can only imagine the sweetness of the Krishna Katha that is flowing over here. So here he says Vaishakis cha Bhagavan. So the word Bhagavan can be applied both. So Vayasakis is a name of Sukdev Goswami. So Vayasaki means son of Vyasadeva. So it can apply to both. It can be used to refer to Sukadeva Goswami, and it can be also used to say that, talk about Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada, he applies it to Sukadeva Goswami. So if you look at the word to word, he says Bhagavan, full and transcendental knowledge, which is applied to the son of Vyasadeva. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains why this is appropriate. He says that Bhagavan means omniscient. In the meeting of devotees, there will be topics containing Krishna's qualities, which will generously fulfill Gunadaraha, the mind's desires. These qualities of the Lord are fixed for the devotees in the present and the future. Thus, at the place he will produce those qualities of Krishna. So, in a more technical way, what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying, that it is appropriate to call Sukdev Goswami as Bhagwan because he will be reflecting the qualities of the original Bhagwan. So Sukdev Goswami can be considered to be omniscient because he will be talking about things that are not known outside the realm of the devotees of Krishna. He can be called omniscient because he will be talking about the qualities of Krishna that transcend space and time. And he can be called omniscient because of his own absorption in Krishna. And because of his absorption in Krishna, he will also be taking on the qualities of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada explains that even though Maharaj Parikshit and Sukdev Goswami are externally very, very different. So Parishad Maharaj is a Grahastha, Sukdev Goswami is a sannyasi or a brahmachari, but he's a renunciate. Then Sukdev Goswami is a Maharaj Parikshit is Kshatriya. Sukdev Goswami is the son of Vyasadeva, he is a Brahman. Maharaj Parikshit is a king, and Sukdev Goswami is a renunciant. He has nothing to do with anything material. But both of them are at the same level because they are directly connected to Krishna. So being unalloyed pure devotees of the Lord, despite their difference in their varna and ashram, they are non-different in terms of the stature. One is playing the role of a disciple and other is playing the role of a master. Both of them are doing it as a service to Krishna. So there is no difference between the mood in which they are relating to one another. Sukdev Goswami is, how best can I, along with Maharaj Parikshit, serve the desires of the Lord? And that is the desire of Maharaj Parikshit also. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, the use of the word cha after Vyasaki suggests, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, that both Sukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit were in the same category. So which means that the word Bhagwan can also be applied to Maharaj Parikshit. So they're both in the same category. And although one was playing the part of the master and other the part of the disciple, still they should be considered to be in the same category. Since Lord Krishna is in the center of the topic, the word Vasudeva Parayana, or devotee of Vasudev, suggests devotee of Krishna, of Lord Krishna, the common aim. So Sukadev Goswami, even though he appears as a jnani, he, especially if you listen to the earlier cantos, it is very easy for one to make that incorrect conclusion that he is a jnani. But actually, and Srila Prabhupada says that one should never doubt the depths of the ecstatic devotion of Sukdev Goswami, and then he gives an example that the events following Krishna's killing of Agasur. So Hemanath Prabhu, if you can mute your phone, thank you. So in Bhagavatam, Canto 10, 12th chapter, this is verse 44. Sutta Goswami said, O Shaunaka, greatest of saints and devotees, when Maharaj Parishad inquired from Sukadev Goswami in this way, Sukadev Goswami, immediately remembering subject matters about Krishna within the core of his heart, externally lost contact with the action of his senses. Thereafter, with great difficulty, he revived his external sensory perception and began to speak to Maharaj Parikshit about Krishna Katha. So this is right after the killing of Agasur. But the point that is being made here is that the symptoms that are being displayed by Sukadev Goswami is that of a rasika. So one of the symptoms is losing external consciousness. But because Sukadev Goswami's service was to speak the Bhagavatam, he had only 7 days to speak, so he could not afford to go into the throes of ecstasy. That's why it is said that he never mentions the name of Radha, because he was a great devotee of Srimati Radharani, and his fear was that if I did speak about Srimati Radharani, I would lose my external consciousness. So he carefully avoids speaking. So both Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadev Goswami is glorified over here. Maharaj Parikshit is glorified as a Mahabhagavat, and Sukadev Goswami is glorified as Vasudeva Parayana. And Shaunaka Rishi is making this point that there is a Bhagavata and a Vasudeva Parayana. They are discussing in the association of devotees. So one can only conclude that all the topics they were speaking were not only centered on Krishna, but they were very, 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 very sweet. Okay, so let me stop over here, see if there's any questions or comments so far.
Prabhuji, Srila Prabhupada mentions about Nitya Siddha and Sadhana Siddha devotees, and that they are on the same level. I'm just trying to yeah, I mean, but then we know that even Narad Muni is actually is not I mean, he is eternal. He's I mean, that was basically just his his becoming a maid servant was only like a pastime. And also like Shukadev Goswami, eternally he's a parrot of Radharani. Do we know of any any like devotees who are actually like sadhana sadhana, not playing a role of being a sadhana devotee?
So there is Achyuta Devidasi, Prem Kishore Das, Saranga Prabhu. So there are so many devotees who are on the way of becoming sadhana siddha, right? That's the process, that by following the rules and regulations, we attain perfection. In the 10th canto, uh, uh, especially in the context of the gopis, it is explained that there were different categories of gopis. They were the eternal associates of Krishna, and they were the Nitya Siddhas, and then they were the Sadhana Siddhas also. So and there's a little bit of a difference between how they reacted to Krishna's call of the flute at the time of the rasa dance, based on their on their position. The point that Sri Prabhupada is making is that it's like you take a plane or you take a train, or you're already arrived at the destination, but at the end of the day, when there are three people, one person was already there, the other person flew, and the other person took a train. But when they all arrived at the destination, there's no difference. They've all arrived at the destination. So at least in the context of the pastime, Prabhupada uses that to make a distinction between Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit. That Sukadeva Goswami, he was not born right from the birth, he was not a devotee. And you're right, to some extent it was Leela, but at least from the context of the manifest Leela, he was an impersonalist and became a devotee that's why Prabhupada says that only by the mercy of devotees, one who is pursuing the path of sadhana becomes a devotee. And that is a reflection on the life of Sukadeva Goswami. Maharaj Parikshit, he had a different situation. He was rescued by Krishna in the womb of his mother, and right from the beginning. So if you go back to the chapter, the chapters 15, 16, about the appearance of Maharaj Parikshit, then right from the birth, the Brahmins say that he is a Mahabhagavat right from the beginning. So he had received mercy at some point of time, but he was born in a perfected stage. One of them was a master, another was a disciple, and the reason they are there, because regardless of the path that they took, the destination is the same. One is doing the service by being the master, and the other is doing the service by being a disciple.
Thank you, Prashi. And Prashi, like in terms of the flow of this chapter, you know, so I mean, and of course, the name of the chapter is Pure Devotional Service, Change of Heart. So, and now basically it seems like, they want to hear, right? So Shaunak Rishi is basically inspiring Sutta Goswami to speak more. So that means that the focus is more on hearing. Um, I mean, is there a I mean, I understand that Shravanam is like the first step, but is there like a but I mean, like even service, basically, if you do service, like I mean, if you don't do service, then the hearing is not really, it doesn't really get absorbed.
It, yeah, I think I get what you're saying, that unless it is accompanied by active service, um, simply hearing may not be, may not be that potent. It is not really a reflection on, because we are at the stage of being sadhaks. This is applicable to all the angas of bhakti. So even even kirtan. So even if we are chanting, then in itself, chanting is enough to take us back to Godhead. But for us, it's not enough, because again, it's contaminated chanting. We do deity worship. In itself, deity worship is enough, but for us, it's not enough. So what we do is understanding that all our endeavors are, uh, are limited and contaminated. We take shelter of so many paths, and the understanding is that they all bolster one another. That, well, if you're hearing and then we see that our attention is wavering, so then we do something else. Maybe we cook for the deities. We get tired of cooking for the deities, maybe we do some Archavigraha Seva. We get tired of that, maybe we do Vaishnav Sangha. We get tired of that, maybe we do some kirtan. That's because we are in a way trying to make sure that our flickering mind, whenever it flickers, it engages in something related to Krishna. Now, in a perfectional stage, any of these activities are there. So Srila Prabhupada talks about the 9 limbs of devotional service, and then he gives examples, right? He gives examples how just by following one of the limb, a devotee has attained perfection. So he gives the example of Maharaj Parikshit as Shravan. He gives example of Sukadev Goswami as Kirtan. Who does he give the example for Smaran? As Prahlad Maharaj. And Shravana Kirtana Smarana Vandanam. So Vandanam is Akrura. Then what's the next limb?
Padasevanam, Lakshmi.
Padasevanam is Lakshmi Devi. So So in this way, simply by following any one of the processes, one attains perfection. Now, the reason that Shravan is glorified the most is contextual. It's not that at one point they're saying that all 9 are the same, but this is better. It's contextual to our circumstances. Because of all the 9 processes, Shravan is the easiest. So this is a point that is made by Srila Prabhupada in the purport more than once. That Shravan is considered to be the king of the 9 processes of devotional service because it is most easily executed, more easy than Kirtan also. That Prabhupada says anybody can sit down and at least for some time listen to Krishna Katha, because Krishna Katha by nature it is so attractive. Maybe they can't sit like Parishad Maharaj for 7 days complete fasting, but anybody can sit down for a short period of time. But anybody cannot sit down for a short period of time and do Smaran or Padasevan or Atma Nivedan. This is the reason why Shravan is glorified, and after that Kirtan. That after one is able to, one hears, it's one's tendency to share what one has heard. So you hear Krishna Katha, and it's human tendency that you go and then share. This is what I heard. This is great. This is wonderful. So both Shravan and Kirtan are glorified because they're easily accessible.
So thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other thoughts?
Prabhu, just a comment. Parikshit Maharaj, his relation with Krishna, he is his grandfather in a way. I mean, he must have been like Krishna should have come and visit him at one point in time. Should have had some connection.
He should have, because Krishna was very affectionate to the Pandavas, and we did note that in the chapter where it talks about the Pandavas decide to retire timely, and when Arjuna is talking about the disappearance of Krishna, so he does mention that in our past, Krishna has come and given us association and gone. So our understanding is that in this intervening 36 years, when Yudhishthira was ruling, Krishna comes at different points of time. We also understand that when it is said that Maharaj Yudhishthira performed 3 Ashwamedh Yagyas, he didn't perform all of them at the same time. They performed at different points of time, but it says that Krishna made Maharaj Yudhishthira perform 3 Ashwamedh Yagyas. So we understand that there was association, and because Maharaj Yudhishthira is this at the level of his grandfather from Maharaj Parikshit. One can understand that Krishna was also at that level. So the general understanding is that Maharaj Parikshit had darshan of Krishna, he had association of Krishna, but he obviously did not have access to Krishna's childhood pastimes from a direct experiential basis. So which is why it is said that he had heard about it, and then he would emulate it through whatever his dolls or playthings.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Okay. If there are no more questions, I'll continue to the next verse, 2-3-17. Ayurharti vapumsham udyannashtam chayannasau tasya te yat kshannita uttama shlokavartaya. Both by rising and by setting, the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone, except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. So after having glorified the importance of Krishna Katha, in the next set of verses, pretty much till the end of the chapter, Shaunaka Rishi, he will condemn those who do not find taste in Krishna Katha. And the condemnation, in a way, is a glorification of those who do find taste in Krishna Katha. So by saying that this person who does not find taste in Krishna Katha is condemned in this way, the implicit statement is that the person who has a taste in Krishna Katha is glorified in the opposite way. So while it may appear that he is criticizing, he is in a way, but really speaking, he's also glorifying Krishna. And you have to remember that Shaunaka Rishi, he is very old. He is from the beginning of the Manvantara. So he has lived through many yugas. He is very, very old. So from that perspective, he has seen a lot. He has heard a lot. So it is also appropriate for him to be in a position to criticize. In the family elders, it's their right and it's their duty to criticize, just because they know so much and they have seen so much. So Shaunaka Rishi's his heart is breaking to see people that are acting so frantically and completely misusing their human form of life. So he decries such topics, that all these topics other than Krishna Katha will lead one to death. So he talks in a very poetic way, that Udyanastam Chayanashau, that by the rising and the setting of the moving sun. So it's a poetic way to describe the passage of time. That between the rising and the setting of the sun, a day has passed. So essentially what he is saying, that those who do not discuss the topics of Krishna are killed by time. And those who do discuss the topic of Krishna, they are liberated by the same time. So in Bhagavad Gita, 11th chapter, Krishna says, time I am the great destroyer of the world. And this is Krishna, he's talking about the destructive aspect of time, but then he qualifies it. And he says, with the exception of you, the Pandavas, all the soldiers here on both the sides will be slain. So he's making the same point, that time is destructive for the non-devotees, but the same time acts as a protective, as a liberating factor for those who are devotees. He said, with the exception of you, the Pandavas, because they are devotees, not because he has any familial relationship with them, but because of the fact that they are devotees. And in a more stark way, in chapter 9, Krishna says, Akshipati bhavati dharmatma shashvam shastra adhigachati kauntaya pratijani name bhaktya pranashyati. So when he says name bhaktya pranashyati, then he says that my devotees are never destroyed. So this is by the influence of time. And the reason is that they are under the protection of Krishna. So the understanding is that by the rising and the setting of the sun, by the movement of time, even though the so Sarang Prabhu, it's your good wife. Can you ask her to? No worries. So, so Prabhupada, in the purport, he says this verse indirectly confirms the great importance of utilizing the human form of life to realize a lost relationship with the Supreme Lord by acceleration of devotional service. Time and tide wait for no man. So the time indicated by the sunrise and the sunset will be uselessly wasted if such time is not properly utilized for realizing identification of spiritual values. So in the commentary on this verse, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that this also means that spiritual activity cannot be delayed. Every moment of delay is another moment that the sun has traveled and depleted one's life. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur interprets this to show that Shaunak Rishi is talking about the urgency of taking to spiritual life. That while you are thinking of taking to spiritual life, the sun is the sun is moving. So in an extreme situation, you may lose your life before you take to spirituality. You keep thinking that tomorrow I will chant good rounds, tomorrow I will serve devotees, tomorrow I will become serious about Krishna consciousness. And then tomorrow you say, tomorrow I will become serious. And what's happening in the meantime? The sun is moving. And as the sun moves, it sucks away your life. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur interprets this as Shaunak Rishi is saying that do this now. Don't wait for tomorrow. Another interpretation of this verse is that, and this is a more what's the right word to say? This is a more compassionate, because this verse in a way is pretty harsh. Shaunakrish is saying that you either take to devotion or you die a useless life. So can you imagine saying that to some person? It's a pretty harsh words to say. Or even to a devotee, he's saying, stop wasting your life. Take to Krishna consciousness seriously, because you can die at any time. So the acharyas say there is another more compassionate, a sweeter interpretation of this verse, which says that one who has spent even a moment in Krishna Katha will not be subject to material destruction. So the analogy that is used here is that if a branch of a tree bears fruit, then the entire tree is considered to be a fruit-bearing tree. Similarly, if even one moment is spent in Krishna Katha, one's entire life is considered to be spent in Krishna Katha. Right? So there is a big tree, and the tree is barren. It has hundreds of branches, and in one branch there is one fruit that is hanging. So one may look at the tree and they say, oh, this is a fruit-bearing tree. That fruit is hanging over there. So similarly, one has life which has got so many moments. But one moment the person did some Krishna Katha, chanted Krishna's name, sat in where Krishna Prachar was there. So because that moment is connected to the entire life, Sonak Rishi is glorifying the potency of Krishna Katha. That even if one spends one moment even if one moment has been utilized in discussing the topics of the all good personality of Godhead, the rising and the setting of the sun will not decrease the duration of his life, which means that he has already become liberated. So related conclusion is that that one who has dedicated one's life to Krishna Katha is immune to the influence of time. Such a person will not die. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that it is said that good character is imperishable wealth. Since the others spend their wealth in unlimited pleasures. And then he quotes the Manu Samhita, in which he says that in giving to the non-Brahman, so this is Manu Samhita's, this is Manu Samhita 785 talking about charity. And if you bear with me, we'll see how Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur relates it to the verse that he's talking about. So the verse that he quotes about charity is, in giving to the non-Brahman, the amount remains the same. So the amount is what one gets back. So when one gives in charity, it's an act of piety. So because of the cycle of karma, one gets back. So how much does one get back? So when one gives to a non-Brahman, one gets back the same amount. If one gives to a Brahman in name only, the amount doubles. If one gives to a Brahman who knows the Vedas thoroughly, the amount multiplies by 100,000. So the point that he's making is that the same activity, it will bear different fruits based on the context. In all the three situations, the person is giving $10. But depending on the recipient, the person may either get $10 or $20, or he may get $1 million. So a person may be working very hard in Karm Kand and he will get some results. The person may be working in Gyan Kand and he may get some more results. But when a person is working in Bhakti, then the results that he gets are magnified in an unlimited amount. So at a superficial level, a person who is working in Karm Kand may be appearing to work harder. So he may be giving $100 to a non-Brahman and he gets back $100. But a person who is working in Bhakti, even though he may be giving only $10, but he gets back $1 million. Why? Because the context is is different. So in this context, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes this verse to substantiate the point that he has made earlier, that even one moment that is spent in Krishna Katha is like an entire lifetime. Why? Because of the potency of the moment that is spent. Just giving $1 to a qualified Brahman will result in $100,000, whereas $1 given to an unqualified person will only result in a dollar. So similarly, even one moment spent in devotion to Krishna, in hearing Krishna Katha, can actually have the same effect as one's entire life spent in Krishna Katha. So, Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he says that this point is substantiated by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada says, so this is the purport, in Bhagavad Gita 240, the Lord has explained such contact in the following words. So this is the Neyam Bikramana Ashasti Pratvayona Vidyate. So endeavors in devotional service are never baffled, nor is there failure. A slight beginning of such activities is sufficient even to deliver a person from the great ocean of material fears. As a great potent drug injected intravenously acts at once on the whole body, the transcendental topics of the Lord injected through the ear by the pure devotees of the Lord can act very efficiently. All realization of the transcendental messages implies total realization. Just as the fructification of one part of the tea implies fructification of all other parts. So Srila Prabhupada here is referring to the analogy given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. This realization for a moment in the association of pure devotee like Sukadeva Goswami prepares one's complete life for eternity. Another understanding of this also is that there is nobody who can listen to a moment of Krishna Katha, because Krishna Katha is so addictive and intoxicating. If one listens to Krishna Katha for one moment, then the natural understanding is that he will spend the rest of his life listening to Krishna Katha. So it is a theoretical statement saying that a moment of Krishna Katha, because that is simply not possible. Prabhupada refers to the fact that oral realization of a transcendental message implies total realization. So when one hears a little bit, one is driven to hear more and more of it. In a lecture on this verse, Prabhupada says, Bhagavad says that from the beginning of the sunrise up to the end of sunset, your duration of life is being taken away. That is the business kal. This is called time, past, present, and future. This is the past, present, and future of this body. So far I am concerned, I am not past, present. I do not belong to the category of past, present, and future. I belong to the category of eternity. Therefore, we should be careful how to attain, how to be elevated to the platform of eternity. So Prabhupada in this lecture, when he's saying so far I am concerned, he's not talking about himself as Prabhupada, but he's talking about Jiva Tattva. That when he says I'm concerned, he says the Jiva, it's not in the category of past or present or future, but it is in the category of eternity. So because the Jiva is in the category of eternity, it should be elevated to the platform of eternity. Okay, we'll do one more verse and then after that stop for any questions or discussions. 2-3-18. Tarvakim na jivanti bhastarakim na swashantyuta akadanti na mehanti kim grame pashavo pare. Do the trees not live? Do the bellows of the blacksmith not breathe all around us? Do the beast not eat and discharge semen? So in the previous verse, Shaunaka Rishi, he had talked about the importance of effectively utilizing one's time. So somebody in the audience can raise their hand and then they say, I have so much work to do. I have to sustain my life. I have to sustain my life breath. I have to eat. I have to procreate to carry on my vamsha. So Shaunaka Rishi, he is responding to that implicit uh, objection, that so the essence of the verse is that a life lived without spiritual endeavor is useless. So he's speaking about the breathing of the bellows, and so the breathing of the bellows is so the bellows, if you know or if you have seen some of the more traditional blacksmiths in India, it's kind of like it's got two handles and it's got a pouch in between. So when they draw the handles out, it draws the air in, and when they compress the handles, it expels the air. So it is basically used to stoke the fire there, but it's very much like our lungs. We breathe in, and when we breathe out. So Shaunaka Rishi says that don't the tree live a long life? And then one may object that, but they do not breathe. So to refute the point, he says, look at the bellows. They breathe so strongly, yet they are not alive. So the point he's making is that everything that breathes is not alive. And everything that does not breathe is not dead. So he has talked about the trees and the bellows, and there's a difference. The trees, so even though we know biologically the trees do breathe, but he's talking about the way the animals and the humans breathe, which is by mostly humans. He's talking about by the expansion and the compression of the chest. So he's saying that just because one is breathing does not mean that one is alive, and just because one is not breathing does not mean that one is dead, because the bellows breathe and they are not alive, and the trees do not believe, but they are not dead. So essentially, Shaunaka Rishi is comparing the breathing of a non-devotee to a pair of bellows, right? So he's saying that even though they are breathing, they are not alive. Just like a pair of bellows are breathing, but they are not alive. So the point that he's making, they're not alive in the sense that they are not alive to the human form of life. So the similar point is made in the Bhagavatam in the 10th canto. Only if they become your faithful followers are those who breathe actually alive. Otherwise, the breathing is like that of a bellows. Some of the other points that are made is that compared to the humans, the trees live much longer. So the duration of lives are much longer. There are trees that actually live for so in Oregon, if you go there, there is a redwood forest and there are sequoia trees there. And the sequoia trees there are 5,000 years old. So there are trees that live very, very long. Srila Prabhupada would say that it is a curse. Sometimes we think that long life is great and we marvel at it. But Prabhupada said, can you imagine the soul? It is trapped. The soul which is Chinmaya, fully conscious. It is Anandamaya. It is seeking pleasure. And it has a body that it cannot move. It cannot experience any emotions, cannot express any emotions. And then it goes not for 1 year, 2 year, or 10 years, 100 years, but for thousands of, thousands of years. So the longevity, there's no point in a longevity. The longevity of a tree is useless. Then the eating and mating by animals and the men are on the same platform. And then the bellows are not alive. So also we see different levels of consciousness being presented over here. The bellows are jad. They have no consciousness. The trees, they have a very low level of consciousness. And then Shaunaka Rishi talks about the animals, which are slightly more elevated. So the bellows, the trees, and the animals. Now, of course, the humans are much above them. But the point is making is that a human being who does not use the human form of life in making spiritual advancement is no better than a bellow or an animal or a tree or an animal. In fact, he's saying that they are better than the humans. Why? Because the bellows can actually breathe much more strongly than the humans can. They can inhale and exhale much more ferociously than the humans can, and they can do it for as long as somebody is operating it. The animals, they can eat and mate much more vigorously than the humans can. They can they can hunt their prey, or they can extract nutrients. So and they're shameless in terms of satisfying their sexual desires. So the animals are much better than the humans in eating and mating. So if the index of happiness was to be considered uh, to be in the humans, is that they have a superior form of life, then they don't have a superior form of life. The bellows are actually superior. The trees are actually superior because they live a much longer life than the humans. The animals are actually superior because they can actually enjoy much more than the humans. So what does this mean? That the only reason the human form of life can be considered to be superior if they engage in spiritual endeavor. So Prabhupada, in the purport, he gives an example that the Bhagavatam says that certain trees live for hundreds and thousands of years. At Vrindavan, there is a tamarind tree. The place is known as Imlitala, which is said to have existed since the time of Lord Krishna. In the Calcutta Botanical Garden, there is a banyan tree said to be older than 500 years. And there are many such trees all over the world. Swami Shankaracharya lived only 32 years, and Lord Chaitanya lived 48 years. Does it mean that the prolonged lives of the above mentioned trees are more important than Shankara or Chaitanya? Prolonged life without spiritual value is not very important. So in response to this, one may choose to argue this point. So one may say that there are people who have good qualities, and for that they are praised. So there are leaders uh, uh, of society. There are people who are accomplished in arts, who are uh, uh, who are famous for giving in charity. So is it reasonable for Shaunaka Rishi to condemn them as being worse than bellows and animals and trees? So Shaunaka Rishi's opinion, he 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 clearly states in this verse. So he's saying that such people, they're not only wasting their own lives, they're also misguiding others. Prabhupada says a society of such polished animals cannot benefit suffering humanity, for an animal can easily harm another animal, but rarely do good. So it's a pretty harsh statement. And the statement that is made is that even if somebody is philanthropic, even if somebody is valiant, but if the person is not spiritual, is not engaged in Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada says is no better than a polished animal. And he said that he's actually worse, because not only is he misleading himself, because of his position as a leader, he will be misleading others. So in a lecture on this verse, Prabhupada says, the tree's life, that is life, admitting it cannot breathe. So immediately the answer is, Vashrata kimna swasantyuta. Vastra means bellow. You have seen big bellows in blacksmith shop. This is also made of skin. Just like our body is made of skin, that bellow is also made of skin. And it has a big nose. Breathing is coming. So ultimately it is later on in the lecture, Prabhupada says that they are much more accomplished than the humans in the art of breathing. So they are superior to the humans in that way. And if one has to become better than a blacksmith's bellow, one has to take to Krishna consciousness. Okay, I think I went a little bit more than I'd expected, but let me stop over here and see if there's any questions or comments.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. That's a very nice class, and this last verse is also a very strong reminder for us. Thank you very much.
Okay, so if there are no questions, I'll hand over here. Vanchakalpatarubhayascha kripa sindhubheva cha patitnam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananda Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Gaur Premanand. Hari Hari Bol.